Authorities now closely monitoring potential threats to our communities as the Israel-Hamas war rages on. Atlanta News First, Rachel Aragon is live at 5 outside a synagogue in DeKalb County. Rachel, we understand worshipers across the Atlanta area, they are nervous at both synagogues and mosques.
Correct. FBI also announcing today, Savannah, that again, they are closely monitoring any potential threats both here at home and overseas. And they're also urging the public as well as and especially places of worship to remain vigilant. They say as the conflict continues overseas, the FBI says it's seen an increase in reports of threats against Jewish, Muslim and Arab communities and institutions, raising concerns. They say that violent extremists and lone offenders motivated by or reacting to ongoing events could target these very communities. The FBI saying tensions between Israel and the Palestinian territories have long been a source of calls for violence against Jewish, Arab and Muslim communities. The agency saying in its public service announcement, the history coupled with the current widespread sharing of graphic and disturbing content related to this very conflict increases the risk of incitement to violence in the U.S. We therefore urge everyone to remain vigilant and to report any threats of violence or suspicious activity to law enforcement. The FBI going on to say they take every potential threat, of course, seriously, and of course will look further into it and investigate and take any action if needed. Reporting live in DeKalb County tonight, Rachel Aragon, Atlanta News First.
Rachel, thank you.